Well, welcome everybody to Trainertainment's webinar series. We're excited to have you here with us today. Just a reminder that we do have these about every other month. So you can see on your screen the different topics that we're going to be covering this year. And we hope that you're able to join us for each of those. They're on the third Wednesday of the month, every other month. And there's our schedule there. Today, we, of course, are going to be talking about Media 101, how to maximize your media coverage. So I want to introduce myself to everybody. My name is Denise Killian. And before joining Trainertainment, I spent 20 years as a broadcast journalist. So I have lived all over the country and covered all kinds of stories that you can't even imagine, both national stories, international stories, local stories. I've run newsrooms across the country. So I'm giving you the inside scoop on how you can get a better shot at having media coverage, how to control what that coverage is going to be. And then, of course, we're going to talk about what happens when you don't want the media coverage. So get out your notes, take some notes. Definitely want to hear your thoughts and questions. And if you have a concern, or if you've got an event coming up that you want to know how to maximize that coverage, this is what we're going to learn about today. So before we get started, of course, we can't do anything without thanking our sponsors. So we want to take a moment to thank them. We have a couple here with us today. So want to give a big Taylor Swiftie shout out to our friend Elise at Roller. Elise, how are you doing today?
I'm good. And as you mentioned, anxiously awaiting the next 10 hours before the release. So, yep.
I should have thought ahead and kind of tweaked this whole presentation a little bit to have
it's probably more relevant to some and not all, but I would imagine for most of the target demographics that our operators are seeking, it might be something that's fairly relevant. We have a local restaurant here that's been doing Taylor Swift events with trivia and all this stuff just to give away 2 tickets, and you can't even get in. You have to book it weeks in advance. So they're on to something. But thank you for having us. I'm excited. Excited to learn.
Thanks for being here, Elise. And then we have Drew and Simnox. Hey, Drew. Are you muted? Did we lose our friend Drew? Oh, we can't hear you. But we'll give a big wave and a thanks, Drew, for being here. And I'm sad we can't hear you. We also have Shane with Delta Strike. Hey, Shane. He's also excited about Taylor Swift, just so everybody knows.
I'm guessing with my teenage daughters, if it drops at midnight, it means tomorrow for school is going to be a fantastic day. You know, they're going to be up till 2 a.m. listening to Tay Tay. So yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So welcome Shane and Drew and Elise, our sponsors, and welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here. And let's go ahead and get started. So, you know, we all probably feel this a little bit. Bad news travels at the speed of light, and good news travels like molasses. So I think we can probably all relate to that and feel that a little bit. We see it in our lives. We see it on social media. You see what dominates the mainstream media coverage. It seems like we get the bad news in a split second and it goes everywhere. But it's really, really hard to get that good news out there and to get that sticky factor to it, to where it sticks and people share it and talk about it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how you can take the good news that's happening at your center and get that out there. So one of the first things that you need to be able to do is identify your key local media outlets. And those are changing kind of every day. But for most of us, you're going to have newspapers. Now, some of us can remember back in the day when there was a morning edition and an afternoon edition, or maybe even 2 different newspapers in your community. And in today's world, unfortunately, that's consolidated so much. And you might have one newspaper that's maybe 3 or 4 sheets and you get it once a week as opposed to a daily. And there might be just that, if you look at the bylines closely, you'll see that every local story is written by the same person because there's only one local print reporter in your area. So take a look at that, scope that out, and write that person's name down. Of course, there's television stations, and for most of us, there will be 3 to 4 local stations that cover news and do local reporting. So you'll want to make sure that you identify those and figure out how far away they are from you. And then radio stations, of course, there's few and far between of those as well that are actually local anymore. So take a look and see who owns those stations and if they have local DJs or local on-air coverage, or if it's not just something that's like iHeart or Cumulus, that it's a national program. So that's going to vary in every single area of our country. And then, of course, there's online news websites. So do some Google searching, do some looking around, and identify who your local media outlets are. And that's going to be our first step in figuring out who to get the information to. Talking specifically to broadcast, it's important to figure out your newscast times. And this is something that is changing almost daily. For a lot of us, you can see that your local TV news stations are adding more and more and more and more local news. But for a lot of us, you're seeing morning news from 4 to 7 a.m., or it's going to be longer. If it's a Fox station, that might go all the way to 10 a.m. if it's a Fox station. So for those kinds of, if you're looking for coverage in that time frame, which by the way is an excellent time because that's the only demographic right now, the only time slot that is growing in terms of the number of viewers. So morning news is a great time to catch people. So think about having something that's fun, interactive, where you've got people or things to do. That's going to up your opportunity to get coverage. Then a lot of us have noon newscasts, and that's mostly going to be just in studio interviews. It's important if you've got, say, a grand opening coming up or a job fair coming up or a new partnership with a local charity that you're going to have a charity night. It's important to, anytime you're in a studio to do an interview, you'll want to bring props, right? We have all seen opportunities that are missed. If you're watching the news and it's just 2 people sitting next to each other on a couch, staring at each other awkwardly for 3 to 5 minutes, and it's really boring. We've all seen that, right? Don't be that person. So if you're going to be in the studio, you want to make sure that you have props of some kind, whether it is bowling pins or a bowling ball and have a fun little opportunity to look how heavy this is, something like that. You want to bring props just to be more engaging and more exciting. And the news station is going to love you for that and invite you back more often. 4 p.m. news, you're looking at an option for an in-studio interview or an interactive live shot as well. 5 and 6 p.m. newscasts are most likely for us going to be those longer form stories. Your 9 or 10 o'clock news if you're East Coast or West Coast, and then 10 and 11 o'clock, again, East Coast versus West Coast. And most likely those are going to be those long form stories. So pay attention to when your local news does have news on the air. And that's going to up your opportunity to figure out when can you do an event. Now, also what's really important to keep in mind, if you're planning, say, a grand opening. Does anybody have a grand opening coming up or a new center that they're opening up? Just let us know in the chat. I know my friends, Sonia or Viv or JB will let me know if we've got anybody in the chat. But if you've got an event coming up, the timing of when you want to do that event becomes really important too. And it can increase or decrease your chances of getting covered by your local news. So deadlines, super, super important. So for a morning news, if you want something to be on the morning news, those are going to be arranged the day before, generally speaking. The noon is also going to be set up in advance. For a 4, 5, 6 p.m. newscast, they're really looking, those reporters are looking at these deadlines because they've got to be able to get there, get the footage, get the interviews, get it edited and send it back to the station. And they're probably working on 1, 2, maybe even 3 stories on any given day. So whatever you can do to make it easier for that reporter, whether it's a print reporter or a broadcast news reporter, however you can make it easier is gonna be to your benefit. So if you want something on the 4 o'clock news, don't try to hold an event at 3:30 because it's just not gonna make that 4 o'clock news. So the deadlines are really important to kind of pay attention to if you're gonna be hosting an event and wanna get a whole bunch of coverage for it, okay? So the other thing, if you've got something going on, you want to be able to complete a complete package. So what do I mean when I talk about this? So journalists, we've got a lot going on. There are a lot of different deadlines that you're faced with every single day. So any opportunity that you can go someplace and you know you're going to get everything you need in one stop really quickly is going to be important. So what do people need? Real people is number one. If you have an event like a job fair and you want to promote the job fair or you're hiring a bunch of people, well, that's exciting story, especially in these times, first time job opportunities, new employment for the community, that's newsworthy, but you don't want the story to just be you or the general manager. You want to have real people as well. So maybe it's you identify somebody on your team that might be good on camera or be able to talk to a reporter. That's also included of here's what it's like to work here. It's a real person and not just sort of an official. That's going to put you above all the other demands that are happening in a news operation on any given day. Second thing is make it easy. You want them to be in and out because remember that newspaper reporter who is the sole person for your area that has to cover the entire community, they ain't got time. They don't have time to have 4 hours. They don't have time to spend 3 hours or even sometimes 1 hour at a location for one of their stories if they're responsible for 10 stories, right? So make sure that you've got things set up. It's easy in, easy out for the reporters. You also want to think about things that are visually stimulating. So we've all seen newscasts where the reporter is standing in front of a building and you don't understand why they're standing in front of a building and that's really dull and that's really boring. Listen, we are fun places. We are entertainment places. So you want to think about what is that backdrop going to be? What's going to be in the background? What's going to be around for visually to catch the viewer's eye? And that's going to make your story stand out over all of the other stories in the newscast. And then you want to make sure that you have a defining message, that you are clear, that you know what your focus is. If it's a grand opening, you know all of the information that you want people to know about that event. If it's a job fair, when is it? Where is it? How do you apply? If it's a new attraction that you're adding to your FEC, you want to have all the fun information about it and that you have a clear message that you want to be in that report. So I'm going to warn you guys, if you do these 4 things, you are going to be that journalist's best friend. They're going to come to you all the time. They're going to want to talk to you on all sorts of various topics because they know that you get it. They know that you know how to make a compelling story and create a compelling story. So just a warning, they're going to come at you a lot. And that's when you want to really consider maybe not saying yes every single time. For example, if there is of course, a terrible tragedy at an FEC, they're going to reach out to you to talk about it. Is that something that you necessarily want to be associated with? Maybe not. If there is what am I trying to say? When something is recalled, a food or a food item or something, they're going to be like, oh, they have a kitchen. I know that Drew is like the best guy to talk to. So we're just going to call Drew up and say, hey, Drew, can we come talk to you about the recall on hot dogs? You might not want to be the person who puts your name and your business next to recall hot dogs, right? So you want to think about that in terms of, is this going to help my brand, right? Okay. Have any questions so far? Does anybody have an event coming up? Do we get any thoughts about events coming up? Let us know if you do, because we can plan through it. So you've got an event coming up. You've got a press release. You send it out to everybody because you've done your due diligence. You have identified your local media outlets. You've gotten the information of where to send a press release to. I've sent out a press release and nothing has happened. Nobody has called. Nobody has said that they're interested. So let's talk about why. Remember we talked about all of the inventory that journalists have to fill, whether it's newspaper or broadcast media. That's a lot of time to fill. They are thinking generally about that day, maybe the next day. So if it's a morning program or a noon program, they're looking a little bit further ahead to the next day. But for most media outlets, you can send out a press release about an event that's 2 weeks ahead, and you can call and say, hey, this is Denise with Fun Time Entertainment. We're having a grand opening. Did you get our press release? Are you guys going to come out? And they're going to say, we'll let you know on that day, right? Because they're not planning that far ahead, okay? So if you are cold calling, you want to 2 to 3 days out, you want to start doing those reach outs. And then the morning of, you want to follow up. So in any organization that has more than one person, like that poor sad newspaper reporter who's reporting the only person on their own, everybody's going to have a editorial meeting. And generally speaking, they're going to have two. They're going to have one in the morning where they'll decide what the coverage is going to be for the 4, 5, and 6 p.m. newscasts. And then they're going to have one in the afternoon in between usually 2 and 3 o'clock to decide what's going to happen in those late night newscasts. So the morning of is going to be your best bet to say, hey, just a reminder, we've got this event or we've got this thing happening, and be able to get a more definitive answer as to whether or not that's something that they're going to be able to cover that day. So, sorry guys, I jumped ahead. So you want to follow up the morning of. Saturdays and Sundays, guys, news operations are desperate. They are desperate for things to cover that are local because, City Hall is closed. Most businesses that they may be reporting on are closed. There's not a lot that they can figure out, what are they going to cover today? So if you have an event on a Saturday or Sunday or a Thursday afternoon, and it doesn't matter which day it is for you, I'd encourage you to hold it on a Saturday or a Sunday, because the likelihood of you being able to get that coverage on a Saturday or a Sunday is so much greater than during the week, just because I'm telling you, inboxes for Saturday and Sunday coverage are so tiny. There's so few things happening. So your chances of getting picked up are much greater for those Saturday and Sundays. You also want to work on establishing relationships with key people inside of that news organization. So your assignment desk person is, or an editor in a newspaper, is kind of the person who's going to be deciding what stories we're going to cover that day, which reporter is going to be assigned to what, and figuring out the schedule for that day of what information they're going to be getting. So if you make good friends with the assignment desk, i.e., if you have a bakery or if you have a kitchen, send your press release with some cookies. I'm telling you, that is a fabulous thing. People will pay attention because on general, I know when I was a news director, I would get about 1,000 news emails every single day. So think about that for a second. 1,000 every day. There's no way I looked at all of those, right? There's a lot that just got automatically sent to trash. So whatever you can do to make it stand out is going to be good. And if you send a news release with some cookies, or if you have a specialty, like, you know, a specialty hot dog or specialty pizza, send a pizza with that news release. I'm telling you, they're going to pay attention and you're going to be their best friend. So you want to develop a relationship with those assignment desk folks, with feature reporters, and with anybody who works on the weekend. So anchors, reporters, assignment desk, anybody that works on the weekend, because again, on the weekend, that's when journalists are most desperate to try to get coverage and stories. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, we know now how to get that good coverage, how to get those positive stories out there. But sometimes bad things happen. Whether it is a storm that comes in and damages your facility, or there's an incident in your parking lot, or heaven forbid, an incident within your facility. So bad news is going to happen. So what do? First thing I can tell you is you got to be transparent. Anytime that there's a bad situation or heaven forbid a tragedy that happens, if you're not transparent, it's going to show. And that is going to impact your brand. That's going to impact people's feeling about being safe coming to see you if they feel like you're being shady or avoiding or ignoring the bad thing that happened. So be transparent. Identify what the issue is. Identify what steps are going to be taken in order to correct it or to move past it, right? Be transparent with all of those things from the beginning. Be genuine. We have all seen when something happens and the spokesperson is stiff and flippant and says things that just really don't hit and don't register. So make sure that you're genuine, because that's also going to impact your brand. And be honest. For the love of all that is good in your world, do not lie. Do not say, oh, we fixed this problem, and then come to find out you haven't. That will be infinitely more damaging to you and your brand than whatever the event was that happened, if you're dishonest about it. Okay. And then be aware. So know that all of your communication during something that's not so good happening is going to be made public. If you send an email to your staff, someone is going to leak it. And it's going to go out on social media, or it's going to go to the local newspaper or the local TV station. It's going to be out there. If you send a message on Slack or whatever internal communication you have, understand that it will get out. So email, communicate in a way that you know that's probably going to leak. So make sure that you're saying something, even though it's supposed to be internal to your staff, it's going to go wide. So make sure that you're clear with those messages and that it's going to be on social media one way or the other. Okay. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions So far, it's hard to not be able to see everybody's face.
Oh,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Shane has a comment about when he was in operations and how he got news coverage. So
Shane, what you got?
It was just piggybacking off of what you said about those Saturday mornings, Saturdays and Sundays being dead. We always, every couple months, we'd have that morning session. They always did like an on-site of what's to do in, the city that day. And so we ran laser tag, and laser tag, like you said, it was very visual. And, you put a couple news anchors in laser tag equipment, they're 14 again, they're running around, they're tagging each other. So it really did generate a lot of business on those days. Parents drinking their coffee, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, that'd be fun to take the kids. And boom, next thing you know, they're in there. So we always made sure that we did some sort of mention this and get a discount part of that session, just one so we could track if it was worthwhile for us to be at the store from 4 in the morning to 1 in the morning. But ultimately just to try to drive that traffic and be able to track it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it, Shane. You hit all of those points, right? That it was visual, it was fun. You held it on a weekend, so you were more likely to get that coverage. And you're exactly right. On a Saturday or Sunday morning, we've all done it. Like, what are we going to do with kids today? Oh goodness. And then you see that, you're like, oh, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. So that's absolutely perfect. I love that.
And while I'm unmuted, Denise, so on when the bad news happens, do you recommend that we always had policies that our staff members did not talk to the media, and we were very rigorous about who was allowed to have those conversations? Do you recommend putting controls in like that as well?
100%. And it's something that, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, because it is really, really important, guys, that you have these conversations now with your staff. That everybody knows what the protocol and procedure is if something bad were to happen, as to what that they should be doing and what the expectations are. Because if something happens, and let's say there's something happens in your parking lot, right? It's not even in your facility, it's out in your parking lot, and there's a road rage incident in your parking lot or something. The press is going to be there pretty quick. And you're not in that moment going to think to remind everybody, hey guys, or tell everybody, oh, you can't talk to the media, you can't talk, right? And then it's over and it's done. And they've already gone on record. So having an action plan for evacuation, having an action plan for media and who can and can't talk to media in place before the event happens is really, really important. And that everybody understands that those are the expectations. Because once it's happened and you haven't had those conversations with your team, it's going to be out there. And it might not be the spokesperson that you want for your operation. So Shane, that's an excellent, excellent point. And definitely, if something bad does happen, you want to be able to control that information by being transparent and genuine and honest. But you also want to make sure that it's phrased in the right way. And generally, the owners or the general manager or somebody from corporate is going to be the better person to be that spokesperson than maybe the front desk attendant, right?
To add to what Shane said as well, we followed similar things, Shane, where like they weren't allowed to speak, but we also had like when bad things happen in our business, there was a couple of common bad things that could happen, and so we created a resource. We did it with a PR firm that was a crisis communications guide, and it said, if this happens, get this information, this is who you contact, and this is kind of like the statement we say until further information is done. And it was all just laid out. And Elise, I know you're not with IAP anymore, but you're very familiar with some of the things. Like, I believe that they have like at least a template for like a crisis communications guide or something like that.
Did you read my comment or no?
No. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny, Candy. Like, as you were saying that, I when I was with IAP, I've been away for 2 years, but we would regularly update a crisis comms plan that's there for free to download as a member. But I think there were a couple of examples that I saw back in like 2020, 21 area of some FECs really doing a good job of handling it and thinking about what position they have in the community, but being strategic and waiting to respond in some ways. Like I don't know if you guys remember this one, but it was somewhere in the middle of America. It was a like a driving range FEC kind of place, and some kids got angry inside and like threw computers and like kind of wrecked stuff inside. And they ended up not pressing charges against the kids, but they worked with the school that the kids are with for the kids to come do like an in-service and volunteer to like help like clean it up, and the kids had to do volunteer stuff, so they made it into this like community thing. And I just thought that was a really cool way of handling some stuff. But definitely use your resources. The IAPA template is available if you're a member.
Yeah. And the important thing is that they obviously had thought about this beforehand, right? They had a crisis communication plan, and they knew, and the folks that work on their team also knew what the expectations were. And, and that is to applaud them to turn that, which could be a negative story, into a positive, and to bring the community in together as a resolution of that story. I think is super smart. So, and that's a great story that people get excited about. So that's a good example, Elise. Thank you. Okay. All right. So you've got a crisis communication plan in place. Yay for you. You have identified your local media outlets. You've made some friends inside of there because you've bribed them and sent food. It works. I'm telling you, I promise it works. And you've got an event that is coming up and you just really want to get some coverage. So what is it that you should be doing? You got to craft a compelling story. So when I say a compelling story, what do I mean by that? Anybody have ideas about what is, like, what's a story that you have read recently or watched that stuck with you? Anybody? That's preferably not politically related. Ain't nobody got time for that. Anybody have a story that stuck with you that just made you have all the feels?
Someone said a story that the audience will want to hear is the definition of compelling story.
Very good.
Cheryl said that. Sorry, I have too many screens open, so I don't see everything.
No, it's good. It's good. So yeah, that's it. It's something that the audience is going to want to hear. So I'm going to play a story for you that was about an urban air opening up in Brooklyn. So now think about that. New York City, there are so many things happening all the time. If you think it's tough getting coverage in your community, imagine how many different things you're competing with in New York City. So let's take a look at this story.
It's 40,000 square feet of an indoor playground in Sunset Park on 2nd Avenue. Urban air adventure parks are located all across the country, but there's never been one in New York City until this New Year's Eve grand opening here in Brooklyn. The Bronx-born owner, Michael Karlowitz, had been looking for the perfect city location for quite a while.
So this opportunity came up in Brooklyn, Sunset Park. We see that it's an up-and-coming area, and we wanted to bring, a form of family fun to Sunset Park and Brooklyn area.
2 hours before the 10 a.m. opening, the line stretched for more than a city block to get in. The first 200 guests who bought a $50 platinum or ultimate pass got free basic access to the park for 1 year.
It was clean. They were very friendly. It was big, spacious, trampoline, spin course, and a place house where I can ride all the slides.
It brings a lot of good stuff to the neighborhood. I'm out here for almost 20 years. This whole neighborhood changes a lot.
There were flip zone, spin zone, bumper cars, let 'em fly, trampoline areas, climbing walls, and a ropes course, and so much more. It was tough to figure out which was a favorite.
The ride, they're so much fun. The LED is beautiful. I think it's amazing. I was waiting for it to open for a lot of days.
Normally, it's a trampoline park, you gotta drive hours away in New Jersey, so we're happy that we got one right in Brooklyn.
The Urban Air Adventure Park is open 7 days a week. On weekends from 10 to 10 and different hours on school days. Hey, I'm surviving the ball pit. It's fun, isn't it? Yes. From Sunset Park, Brooklyn on 2nd Avenue, McGee Hickey, takes 11 years. Back to you, Katie. Come join me.
All right, guys. So what did you notice about that story?
There was lots of action shots. There was lots of people from the community just really talking about how it affected their community, and there wasn't anything else like it. So it got people will be really interested in it. Plus, the reporter was having fun.
Right? You've got the reporter having a good time. She's being interactive. You talk to a bunch of people, both parents and kids, that were excited about this being open, and their kids just excited to ride the rides and do the things and have all the fun. You had another business owner, and then you had, of course, the general manager of that Urban Air, who was kind of the official voice. But it wasn't, imagine that story if it was just the reporter and the one official voice of the owner. It hadn't been opened yet. There weren't kids inside of it. There wasn't anything going on. Would that have been a visually compelling story? Not so much. Not so much. So when you're thinking about hosting an event or trying to get some media coverage, whether it's for a one-off story or a grand opening like this, define your message. What's important for the community? So I'm going to say something that's going to hurt you a little bit. Are you ready? Can we all hold hands? We ready for it together? Sending a press release that says we're having a grand opening is not going to get you coverage. It's just not. Because you know how many businesses open in that viewing area or in that newspaper market every single day? So what is unique? What is important for the community? For this location, they talked about, hey, you have to drive all the way to Jersey. Who wants to go to Jersey, right? We've got something that's here in the city. It's in Brooklyn. That's what makes it unique, right? If you are hosting a job fair, don't send out a press release that just simply says job fair, this location, this date, this time. Talk about how many people you're going to be hiring. Talk about, we hire first-time workers. Are you ready to get your kid out of the house and do something? Send them to us. We'll get them trained. We'll get them their first job and teach them some responsibility, right? That's kind of your angle. That's a fun, different angle than just a job fair or just a grand opening or an open house, right? So try to think in a way of, for you, it's essential, it's crucial. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened in the world, the grand opening of your place or the new feature or attraction that you're adding to your place. It's huge. Step outside of that and think about what's the bigger picture. And if you pitch the bigger picture, you're gonna get your event covered, okay? So is it newsworthy? What makes it unique? What makes it different? What makes it special? And tailor the pitch for that local relevance, okay? And then figure out how can you get real people into your story so that it's not just you, it's the community. Who in your community can come be a part of it? If it is a new attraction, get some kids to be writing it and talking about how fun it is or playing the game or whatever the attraction is, so that you've got real people And it's not just sort of a spokesperson talking about, well, we've added a new game and we're very excited to add this to our arcade. Like, right? That's boring. So you want to have those opportunities to have real people involved. Does that make sense? All right. So I asked, and I can't quite see the queue, but is anybody got an event happening soon or something that you might like to have coverage of?
Don't see that anyone shared that yet. Did have some other comments, like Elise was talking about how when she was an operator, she always tied community and nonprofits to their grand opening to help for more coverage.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a lot of success with that. Just and we tailored it to things that were pertinent to the community. So and we would usually make it something that they got to interact with the venue so that the coverage made sure to not just cover the charity piece, but also incorporate usage of the venue. Like we did Boys and Girls Club kids and police officers from a local city, and we had them each police officer had 3 kids and they did a different escape room and they competed to see who could get out quickest, and we got a lot of coverage even in like local cities nearby. So
Yeah.
that one worked really well.
Yeah, that's fun. And that's hitting all the good stuff because it involves things that make you feel good, which is nice, right? You're fostering a relationship between kids that need some extra help because they've got some situations going on at home. You're fostering a positive relationship between those kids and law enforcement when oftentimes their relationships that they've had with law enforcement might be strained or might be not so good. This is an opportunity to say, look, there can be good there too. That's a feel good moment. It's interactive, it's visual, and you've got it all there in one location. That's an easy get for the reporter. So that's fantastic. That's perfect.
Okay, you've got a couple of takers on your thing. So Carissa, I'm gonna try to promote you to panelist, and then I'm gonna let Denise work you through. They are celebrating a 50th anniversary this year. See if I can get her up. And then if you get finished with that, you also have a 10th anniversary and a remodeling if you have time to work people through some ideas for getting coverage.
Perfect.
All right. So yeah, Carissa came on as a panelist now, and so you can see her now.
Hey, Carissa.
Hello.
So where are you from? What's your place? And you've got a 50th anniversary?
Yes. So it's Fiesta Village. It's in Southern California. And then this year we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary of the park. And I've been trying to figure out what to do.
Okay. So, a themed event for, you know, what I'm scared to say. We can do a 70s. It makes me nauseous to think about that being 50 years ago because it feels like it wasn't that far away, right? But you can do 70s themed events. You could do kind of like prices for one day, 70s prices. I would say one day.
Yeah.
That's like,
Or
Ooh.
1 hour with the way everything's so expensive. No, I'm just kidding.
right? But that can make it fun, right? That can be your fun piece. Listen, we've been in this community for 50 years. We're so excited to be embedded and a part of this community. We want to say thanks to everybody who supported us through this time by offering our prices. And we're going way back to when we opened, it cost 25 cents to bowl. I don't know, I'm making that up, but probably maybe not that far off. For one day, and how fun that would be, right? So that's your fun kind of unique get for an event or a promotion that could be interesting for some media coverage. Do you have the same owners? Is there a human story to tell about your location?
So it's second ownership, but our owners have had it for 20 years.
Okay.
I would
Um,
ask like who's like the historian for your location? Like what dig the archives out and like where have you been active in the community in the past and start um like almost building out a timeline of that to find ways that you think today's media would like to cover it, because that like we've been in this community for this long and we were involved in whatever it may have been, but who is the historian for Fiesta Village? Who knows all those things?
Okay.
who is your longest serving employee? How long have they been there?
I'm one of them. I've been here for 16 years. But other than that, it's everyone that kind of came in at the 20 that've owned it for the 20 years.
Uh-huh.
So, and then past that, there's really not anyone beyond that.
Yeah. So if finding, and it's going to take some time to find this, but if you can find who of your regulars have been coming there the longest, those would be great real people to have available as part of the pitch for, hey, come cover this thing that's happening, right? Oh, we've been coming here for whatever, or we met here and got married, right? Use your social media to try to find those things, right? Fiesta is celebrating 50 years this year. When was the first time you came and saw us? And then, right?
Yeah, I would do
Yeah.
Write down
like
your
a
report.
memory thing. That would be great.
Share your
You know,
memories.
share your memories here, and you can maybe even follow a family that has had like, I started coming here when I was 6, and now my grandkids are coming here. That kind of
Right.
thing.
Yep, and throw those out there on your social media channels and see what kind of comes up to help you identify. There it is. There's our fun people portion of it. 50 years in business for a small business in one community is a pretty big darn deal.
Mhm.
So I
You could do
think
like
that,
retro uniforms, like from that time. You should look and see what they were wearing. Maybe even the drinks. Everything kind of themed towards that.
Marissa, you've got Vivian who is promotions, and then Denise who helps you get coverage, all helping you get so.
Yep. So yeah, but I would use social media to farm out and try to see where you could get that kind of people angle, so that when you're making the pitch for whatever day it is that you're going to have this event, you've got, listen, I've got this person that you can talk to, and this couple or this family that's been coming here for 3 generations that you can talk to. So it's all one in one place. I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. Journalists are overworked and underpaid, and there is way too much that they have to do every single day. If you can hand them the complete package, they will come. They just will. Because if they've got 2 stories that they're working on that day, and they know that they can come to Carissa and they can get everything that they need in an hour and then go get their other story, that's going to be huge, and they're going to do it. So if you can find that people angle, having some kind of an event for that 50th, whether it is we're going to the retro 70s prices, and that's going to get you the most interest in terms of coverage wise, because think about inflation and how much prices have changed, heck, just in the past, handful of years. But let's talk about 50 years. That's going to be kind of your fun, the fun headline, as it were, to bring people in.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. It gives me even more to think about.
Wonderful. Okay, so kind of the same advice probably for that 10th anniversary in terms of finding those people who's been there. Has somebody worked there for 10 years? Has somebody, a family, or, that one league that's been there, they started 10 years ago, they're still there, and talking to them for that people connection. But then Candy, you also said there's a remodeling.
Yes, there is. Let me see. Go back. That is McKinley. So let me find her on our participants and bring her up.
Yay.
All right, McKinley, you should get a request to promote to panelist, and then that will allow you to talk and Denise to help you work through that. Oh, she's coming in, so she did accept it. There you go.
Right. Well, not quite seeing her just yet.
I see that she unmuted. McKinley, can you, let's see a message. Can you talk, McKinley? Elise, while we're waiting for a second, Elise says there's also so much on the news right now. So like, don't get your feelings hurt if breaking news happens and they get pulled away from your story.
And that's something that can happen. And that's an excellent point, Elise, that, you know, if there is a big thing that happens, like a train derailment or something huge, people are going to jump over to that, right? So, but if you foster those good relationships, they're probably going to try to make it right and come back to you in some form or fashion. So, Miss McKinley, hi there.
Hi.
Where are
Hello.
you located and what's the name of your place?
Yeah, so my place is Fiesta Fun Center. I am located in St. George, Utah.
Okay. We've got 2 fiestas. I love it. What are the chances of that? All right. So tell me about your remodel. What are you doing?
Yeah, so we are remodeling our go-kart track. Our facility was purchased in 1992, and we've done a lot with it. It went from 25,000 square feet to 86,000 square feet. So the track is not our original design. It's over 25 to 30 years old. It's kind of a backbreaker now, so we're redesigning it, and it's our only go-kart area like around here. The closest one to us, I believe, is in Las Vegas. So it's a really big remodel that we are working on.
That's huge. That's huge. So, so you've got the uniqueness of we're the only one in the area, unless you want to drive to Vegas, which
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a really long way to go to drive a go-kart, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you've got the location part. Is there new features that you can
Yeah,
highlight?
absolutely. It's going from 720 feet to 932. So
Okay.
it's grown in length and it's a brand new design, looks very different, brand new go-karts.
Okay.
So it's definitely a big facelift.
Okay. All right. So when you are leading up to that, inviting the media to come out and do test runs on the track,
Okay, yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they can bring a little GoPro and stick on the front of the car and then looking at them and, driving around and it's all bananas and fun and crazy, right? So
Yeah.
that's your interactive fun piece. I think morning shows might be a really good thing for you to target. Who is your local media? Are you Salt Lake? Are you like Provo or?
I believe we go through both. We also have a local news station that we go through, just St. George News.
Okay.
So we do, and then we have a few radio stations that we're involved with as well.
Perfect. And radio, now everybody does video, right? So they've
Yeah.
got a website. They want that fun video as well. So I would have available pictures and go ahead and get some of your own video of the construction while it's happening. And that stuff that you can hand out to the media as well, because they'll want to see sort of the before and after and all of that. And then have a media day and invite members out to come test it out themselves.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So does that, any other takeaways that we're getting from this, guys? And forgive me because I can see.
You have a couple of things about someone had a 25th anniversary with a mascot, so they had a birthday party for their mascot and gave free
Very
attraction
fun.
for an hour. And the mayor proclaimed it Hinkle Fun Center Day, and they had a ribbon cutting with the local Chamber of Commerce. So they got like all of their community involved there.
Awesome. Awesome.
Colleen said, and we did a year of contesting on social media and a monthly giveaway to charities leading up for the year that they turned 25. And then Cheryl also just seconded what you said about like having everything together. So they gave, they would give the editor everything, the story, the pictures, the names, full names of the people in the pictures, the photo releases already signed and ready to go.
Yep. So as much as you can hand over a completed package, your chances of getting that coverage is going to be like 50-fold. Because remember, think about 1,000 emails in your inbox every single day. What are you going to do to make it stand out? What are you going to do to help that poor one little newspaper print reporter who has to cover the entire community all on his own? What are you going to do to help make that job easier for him? Or that Saturday reporter she is scratching her head every single weekend of, oh my God, what am I going to get on Saturday or Sunday? Oh, Sundays were always so stressful to figure out what are we going to cover. So how can you give them the complete package? So we definitely want y'all's feedback. So you see on your screen right now, you've got a QR code. You can scan it. You can take a little poll. Let us know what you think about this webinar, if it was helpful for you or not. If you got annoyed by hearing my voice too much, I get that too. So you can fill all of that out on the QR feedback. And again, we cannot thank our sponsors enough. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to Elise and Drew and Shane for being here with us today, but for all of our sponsors who help us bring you our webinars that are every other month, as well as our weekly Think Tank Thursdays. If you're not checking those out, you should. And we drop those every Thursday as well. So with all of that being said, want to invite you to our next webinar, and that's May 16th. And that is with our fabulous and amazing Tiffany Avery. She's going to be looking at some marketing tools. So, media coverage and marketing tools, they go sometimes hand in hand. Tiffany's going to tell you about marketing, not just to get some coverage, but more importantly, marketing to your community and to your potential customers. So we'll want you to join us to hear from Tiffany as well. And with all of that, I bid you adieu. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and being a part of our webinar. We appreciate y'all.